A new report by Spencer Fernando shows that the Canadian government is all talk and no action when it comes to the modernization of NORAD. Spencer Fernando writes here that MP Bob Zimmer, Conservative MP, warns Canadians that the government is all talk, talking about this Liberal government that's in power. They're all talk and no action on NORAD modernization. Fernando says, with threats to Canada and our allies rapidly proliferating, we cannot afford to waste time. He says, if our country is not secure, if our alliances are not strong, and if our military is not equipped to defend us, everything else, including our sovereignty, could be lost. After all, if we were to be plunged in a global war, he writes, a war that could quite conceivably include Russian planes bombing our country, Russian ships and submarines attacking our naval vessels, which would be absolutely easy to do. They're so old, our naval vessels, it's ridiculous. And Russian, Chinese troops seeking to seize sovereign Canadian territory in the north. Now, he goes on to say here that Zimmer, the Conservative MP, he posted a video on Twitter at Cambridge Bay, and it says here that Zimmer noted much of the equipment at that facility is too old, and much of the needed equipment has not been produced yet. And so, despite the big spending promises, they like to make those promises, but they never come through with them. Despite big spending promises, it would appear that the much-touted modernization of Canada's NORAD system is not happening. NORAD modernization has stalled under Justin Trudeau. The PM and his NDP Liberal government is all talk and no action on Arctic sovereignty while Moscow and Beijing ramp up. Canada needs a PM and a government that takes our security seriously. And of course, under this Prime Minister, that is not going to happen. They feel that the military is last on their list when it comes to all these spending promises, and he's spending money mostly outside the country. It's Canada last with this Prime Minister, and now we're having problems with our military. They're pretty much starving to death. They can't get any more recruits with all this woke nonsense that's going on in the military, and so the military is suffering. Now, the latter half of this report talks about Russia and how Russia, it says, seeks to deploy a weapon that could take out satellites, something that would almost certainly be one of the opening acts of a new world war. And I've been talking about biblical prophecy, how the United States and the Western allies are going to receive a deadly blow, and that deadly blow will break up NATO. It goes on to say here that one U.S. official told CBS News that the intelligence in question relates to Russian capabilities in space. U.S. officials told CBS News that Russia is developing a nuclear-capable weapon that could take down U.S. satellites, knocking out the ability to communicate. But there is no evidence a weapon has actually been deployed. So they suspect it. And I think it's going to be really China, other than Russia, that's going to do this. Now, at the end of this report, it says this: the fact of the matter is that Russia and China have made it abundantly clear they intend to weaken the Western world in every way they can, whether through military aggression, nuclear intimidation, or through the exploitation of our internal divisions to keep us divided and off balance. Russia continues to ramp up their military spending in the Arctic, and China is referring to itself as a near-Arctic state, as they seek control over the significant amount of natural resources in the region. In the face of this escalating and potential threat, we must take our national defense interests seriously, and we should be grateful to see MPs like Bob Zimmer standing up for the security of our country. Somebody has to, because obviously the current leadership doesn't really care about the defense of our country and the defense of our Arctic. And I've been saying for years now that biblical prophecy says that China is going to come down from the north, from the Arctic, come down and attack Canada and the United States. In Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, here it talks about the prophecy of Gog, of the land of Magog, that is China, the chief prince of Meshech, which is Manchuria, and Tubal, Tibet, prophesy against him. God says that he will turn China around, put hooks into his jaws, and bring him forth, his whole army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Then it talks about all these nations that are aligned with China. And it says that you shall be a guard unto them. Verse 7, meaning that China will be the leader of this huge alliance that's going to attack the Western nations. Now, notice verse 15. It says this, and you, talking about China, shall come from thy place. And when you look at the Hebrew, it means a military station, a military outpost, shall come from thy place out of the north parts. And when you look into the Hebrew, it means the extreme north, talking about the Arctic, out of the north parts, you and many people with you, all of them riding upon horses, and a great company, and a mighty army. And then it says that you shall be a cloud to cover the land. And in Joel, it talks about locusts coming in and devouring God's people, Israel. So they are going to come from the north. And I've been warning for years now that China is going to attack, take over the Arctic, and then from there attack Canada and the United States from the north. Get our booklets, The United States and Britain in Prophecy. That's free of charge. And you can also order the other booklet, China in Prophecy, and you will see where China is identified in the pages of the Bible. This is Peter Salemi saying goodbye, friends.